Good morning. My name is Nick Slack, and I'm the Director of Consulting Services for the HRP Consulting Group. A bit of background about HRP. We are the only consulting firm in the world known to be specializing exclusively in human subject protections and compliance. HRP combines over 50 years of experience working with IRBs and organizations involved in the conduct of research with human subjects. And in the past, we've worked mainly with universities and hospitals as well as independent or central IRBs. But as the concept of human subject protections expands and government scrutiny increases, of late we've been asked to work with more sponsors, CROs, and private research sites. So what is human subject protection, and why is there a group like HRP specializing exclusively in subject protection? Well, for starters, human subject protection does not equal IRB review. The terms are not synonymous. It's really the shared endeavor of ensuring that the rights and welfare of research participants are protected through compliance with applicable federal regulations and codes, ethical standards, organizational policies and procedures, while considering or being sensitive to cultural norms and customs. So subject protection is a shared responsibility. It's a role that should be fulfilled by all stakeholders involved in the design and conduct of research with human beings. And really, sponsors and CROs are no exception here. And in fact, from our vantage point, sponsors have the ultimate responsibility for the research that they conduct and for ensuring that subjects are protected in that research. Now, this is not taken to mean that sponsors should be expected to participate in the day-to-day interaction with subjects or intervening to actually supply research-related interventions. We know that that is a responsibility of sites. But it does mean that sponsors should have mechanisms for ensuring that the sites that they select to conduct research understand subject protection requirements and comply with those requirements. These sites, for instance, and sponsors should ensure that these sites know the types of events that must be reported to the IRB. And regarding the IRB, sponsors should be expected to ensure that those IRBs operate in compliance with regulatory requirements and have appropriate qualifications to do so. Now, some of the functions that I just mentioned are things that are farmed out or outsourced to CROs, but this shouldn't obviate the sponsor from ensuring that those CROs have mechanisms for ensuring that the rights and welfare of participants are protected as well. So sort of as a big picture idea that I want to leave you with, it's that subject protection is a shared responsibility of all stakeholders involved in the design and conduct of research with human subjects. But why is subject protection important? We're asked all of the time by sponsors and CROs at conferences or during calls why they need to spend more resources on additional compliance efforts. They say they're already spending millions of dollars on compliance, and why is subject protection worth additional resources? And our basic answer is that companies that ignore subject protection increase risk to their organization, never mind the fact that it's just the right thing to do. But what are some of the risks? Well, for one, not being prepared for changing regulatory trends could lead to additional FDA findings. For instance, the Department of Health and Human Services Inspector General report released last year noted that due to the high volume of data submitted to the FDA from internationally conducted research, it was recommended that the FDA step up inspections of foreign sites in order to send a message to sponsors, investigators, and IRBs of the importance of complying with FDA regulations. So a simple question is your organization ready for additional scrutiny by the FDA at home and abroad regarding subject protections and compliance? As we know, FDA findings can lead to 483s, warning letters, and/or additional sanctions. Another risk are simple delays in the research and development process. So for instance, suspensions or terminations of IRB approval at non-compliant research sites can jeopardize the data collected at the site and lead to additional expenditure of resources to account for the losses. So if you're a sponsor or a CRO and you're regularly selecting sites that have compliance problems, you may have to ask the question, what is the result? What are the risks of continually selecting these groups, and how can you overcome some of these problems? Similarly, failures of sponsors or CROs to select IRBs or ethics committees that review research in accordance with federal regulations can be costly. So maybe a case study or an example here is in order. Just 2 years ago, a leading U.S.-based central IRB was caught in a sting operation conducted by the U.S. Government Accounting Office. What happened was the U.S. government submitted a fictitious study to this IRB, among others, and by all accounts, the study was bogus and should have never been approved. The IRB did approve it, and when that was understood by the government, these IRB officers eventually went before Congress to testify. And seeing the writing on the wall, CROs and sponsors were forced to immediately withdraw research from this IRB and consequently have it re-reviewed by other IRBs. Needless to say, this led to millions of dollars in losses due to research re-review as well as delays in approval. There are also legal risks associated with being lax on subject protection compliance. So organizations are more susceptible to legal risks when human subject protection requirements are not satisfied. So for instance, a participant who suffers from a research-related injury who is not provided with a proper consent process has a stronger case legally in a lawsuit than a participant enrolled in a trial where the consent process was properly conducted. And lastly, increasing subject protection can increase public trust or the confidence of individuals to participate in research sponsored by your organization. So for instance, a 2007 Harris poll, whose numbers I believe are still accurate, found that only 11% of the population believes pharmaceutical companies to be honest and trustworthy. And in that poll, 50% of white and 73% of minority respondents reported that it's very likely or somewhat likely that they might be used as guinea pigs in research without their consent. So what can HRP do to help? Well, simply put, we can help you manage down some of these risks by working with your organization to develop minimally disruptive but effective procedures for protecting subjects at all levels of the research and development process. Some of our capabilities include, but aren't limited to, process development for more expeditious IRB approval. This is more of an efficiency concern. Qualifying and compliance audits of IRBs and ethics committees that you work with, both domestically and abroad. Helping your organization or the sites that you work with develop SOPs aimed at ensuring procedures that comply with federal regulations governing the protection of human subjects. We can do site certification to ensure that the sites that you work with comply with these requirements. We do training and education for investigators, research coordinators, and study monitors, and HRP accreditation. HRP accreditation is an accreditation from an organization known as the Association for the Accreditation of Human Research Protection Programs. And while some of you may not be familiar with this, some of you may already be requiring HRP accreditation for the IRBs or the ethics committees that you do business with here in the U.S. But HRP accreditation is not an accreditation of IRBs. Again, it's for human research protection programs. And in fact, more sponsors and CROs and sites are actually showing interest in this accreditation than what was shown previously. So for more information about the HRP Consulting Group, please visit our website at thehrpconsultinggroup.com, and you will find my contact information there if you have any questions about our services. We would like to meet with you at the Q1 conference, so please schedule some time to see us, and we look forward to speaking with you there as well. Thank you.